Alright, there has been a lot of fuss about this stop killing games movement, and I think at this point most people have pretty good understanding of the challenges that developers face when trying to sunset a game, but not completely. And I want to share my perspective because what I have seen in games is that usually they are either completely open source or completely closed source. And my and in my background, I have worked with both. And what usually happens in companies is that there is a mixture between open source and closed source. And what I want to show here is a, a very simple example of how that works, because I think it's not just users, but even video game developers are not considering this. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So here I have a very simple example, synthetic quote unquote game. This is the whole source code in C, similarly in C, in C++, and other languages, where this is the main function, and it's using two other functions, asset and connect, and it just calls them and returns, shows the result. So let's build this, and the result is a binary. If I run it, this is the output. Okay, so this is a very monolithical way of doing things, and I think there's a lot of developers that do that. This is very simple, and just ship the program, runs, everything is fine. Okay, so you as a consumer, let me copy, you only get this binary, so which runs fine. Okay, so here's my view as a developer, and here's your view as a consumer. It's very simple, very straightforward. Okay, now, I mean, this should be considered at the beginning of the development process, but let's say that I never considered this, and now I have to think like, I don't want to maintain this anymore. How can I properly uh, sunset this game in a way that consumers can keep it running without my involvement? Many people think this is not that easy to do, but let's see. The first thing that I can think about, what's going on? Let's say that all this code here are assets from a third party. So a lot of people think like, okay, well, if you have intellectual property of a third party, you cannot open source the game. That's not true. So what can we do here? Okay, so this is the full source code. I'm gonna create a new file, uh, asset.c, and I'm gonna move that code there. That's it. And just move the code to another file. Here, this is a feature of C. Pretty much all languages have something like that. Oh, no, actually, this is muscle memory, because usually you create a header file, but let's not go into those technical details. So I just move the code here. Actually, I need to include this header. See, it is a system header. So in order, so this code works independently of this code. So now these two codes work independently. Should work at least. Let's see. Right. So okay, I need to. These are the build instructions. These are very technical and very specific, but okay, I'm going to explain this in a bit. This is going to be a shared library. Oops, this is not needed. And then in the game, I'm going to link to the asset, and I think that's it. No, right. I have to link one to the other. That's it. Okay, so what did I do? Now I have two binaries. One is the full game, and the other is what is called, this is a library. And the game is linked to the library. So this .so means that this is a shared object. That's a Linux terminology. In Windows, you have DLLs. It's the same thing. Dynamic library. Dynamically linked library, I think that's. But anyway, it's a library. So this links to this. And if I run it, I have exactly the same output as before. Nothing changed. All I did is I split the code into two code chunks, let's say, game.c and asset.c. And as a consumer, you'll think, okay, what's the benefit of doing this? Okay, as a developer, I don't see any difference. But you as a consumer, let's say I give you the source code of the whole game, the asset, and the make file is just instructions how to build something. So now, wait. Now let's remove everything. Okay. So that's it. In fact, this is not needed because all that we need are the instructions how to build the game. And that's it. Now I have built the game using this library. I run the game, and that's it. Everything works exactly the same. The only difference is that you as a consumer, you don't have the source code of this library, right? So here, this intellectual property stuff that somebody wants to keep hidden, I don't have access to that here. So that's a way of splitting the code. Like you have an open source part, which is this game.c, and then you have a closed source part, which is a binary. God knows how it was compiled to you as a consumer. It doesn't matter, and you can change everything in the source code here. The only thing that remains closed or hidden to you is this function, which is provided by this binary, and that's it. Problem solved. But that's not even all developers can do. The other thing that they can do, okay, let's clean everything up. So we just return to the same original code where everything is in the same code base. Instead of open source the tricky part, let's open source only a tiny bit, which is what is necessary to connect to the server. Okay, so let's create a new file, move this function there. Again, this is gonna need this system header in order to compile. Okay. Yeah, that works. And then here we're gonna say, let's include the definition of that function. Okay, so this is very similar, except now, well, you will see. Let's try to build. No, this should not work. What's going on? Huh. Interesting. Maybe there's something that provides. Anyway. Yeah. So there's already a connect function, but anyway. All right. That's not really relevant. Let's do the same that we did before. We actually, no, I'm gonna call it sunset. Yeah. Sunset.c. This option makes it a shared library. Here we're gonna link to that. Remove this too, because this is not gonna link to anything else. And make it a dependency. And that's it. Now we have built the game. Actually, let's clean everything up, except say this sunset. Yes. Let's add this. All right. Run the game. Exactly the same output. Now let's look at what's the difference to you as a consumer. Okay. In this case, it's the other way around. The whole game is closed, and the only thing that is open is this sunset.c. So that's it. You have two files: the binary of the game and a tiny bit of code that is needed to run the game. That the user might want to modify. Okay, so let's compile that. So now we have the game and the sunset library. Run the game, and again, it just works exactly the same as before. The asset and everything that any corporation might want to keep secret is inside this binary. And all that is needed to keep the game playable is inside this source code. And we can change everything here. We can say like, okay, we're gonna change this, and then we're gonna say here skill issues resolved. Okay, and we're gonna change this to our own private IP. And see, we can change anything that we can include other libraries and stuff. You can do whatever you want. Compile it, run the game, and now it's doing something different. That's it. Right? We have a whole game is closed, a small subset of it is open, and works fine. This is how libraries. This is a library. This is how libraries work. It's not that complicated. Now, what a lot of like when people try to do this like without the help of the developer, essentially um, they look at the binary and they try to figure out like this is a very simplified view, but here we can see the IP and the strings, and you can say like, okay, let's try to um, change this address to something else, but that depends on the length of the strings and the alignment and the platform, and there's so many technical details. But yeah, essentially people who dive into this type of stuff try to modify the binary directly. But if the developer takes like what was this, like not even 10 minutes moving the code from one file to another and provide that file, change the instructions to build the library, and that's it. All that work is resolved. Like you just like you as a consumer, you're gonna get the game and a little bit of code. That's it. Like here, the game doesn't run. It needs the library. But you just compile the library, run the game, and that's it. You can change the source code to do anything that you want. Now, I just wanna I wanna try to visualize this. Like the change that will be needed. Right, so this will be the changes. So all we did is move this function into a separate file, and change the build instructions to build the library and then link to that binary. That's all that was needed. And people are making noises that, but what if there's some secret assets and some intellectual property, and it doesn't matter. Just split the code, create the library, provide the source code for the library, and that's it. Where is the problem? I don't know. two files, the binary of the game, the source code of the part of the game that you can make open. That's it. Skill issues, I guess.